Hey guys, Andy here. So I've got another head-to-head for you today. On the left is my trusty Pixel 6 with its Google Tensor chipset, an octa-core CPU, Mali G78 MP20 GPU, 128GB of storage and 8GB of RAM with the UFS 3.1 file system. On the right we have the snazzy new LED light flashing Nothing Phone 1, which has a Snapdragon 778G Plus chipset with an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 642L GPU, 128GB of storage and 8GB of RAM, and also the UFS 3.1 file system. So hopefully they should be a fairly even match for each other, even though there's a slight price mismatch with the Pixel 6 coming in at $599 and the Nothing Phone 1 coming in at $399. But we are going to kick things straight away off with the fingerprint sensor test. That was very close. Maybe the Pixel edged it. Well then, I don't know, maybe the Nothing Phone 1 edged that one. Let's give it one more go. Maybe it's the Nothing Phone 1. It's so close. I think I'd be tempted to call that a tie, if I'm very honest. I mean, I don't know. Keep score yourself if you wish. I'm going to call it a tie. We're moving on to the Angry Birds 2 opening test, and the Pixel 6 gets off to an early start. Let's see if it can push through to actual... No. The Nothing Phone 1 sneaks by. Or does it? And there it goes. Yep, so the Nothing Phone 1 wins the first one. I'm going to close all apps and start again. Now, once again, the Pixel 6 seems to get off to the sort of early start. But then the Nothing Phone 1 comes through and actually does get the app opened quicker than the Pixel 6, which is interesting. So we're going to move on to straight up benchmarking using Geekbench 5. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing because it takes a good few minutes and it's not the most exciting of things to watch. But what we will see when I finally skip ahead in the edit is that the Pixel 6 is going to come to an end first, which normally sort of indicates a higher score. Then I'm going to skip ahead a little bit more. And actually, I mean, those are very similar. Very similar. I mean, technically, the Nothing Phone 1 does win, but again, it's so close. And the Pixel 6 actually has the higher single core score. And I mean, this is numbers. You could argue it's black and white, but again, I'm going to call that a tie. Because you could make an argument that it was the Pixel 6 had a much better single core score. So I'm going to call it a tie. We're moving on to... We've had it outside, in fact, for the GPS test. I always find it quite tricky doing this at the same time on both devices. I should probably just do them one at a time and edit it back in. Anyway, here we go. So I've sort of reset the state, reopened the apps. And yeah, the Pixel 6 does get the lock quicker than the Nothing Phone 1. It's interesting. I'm going to give the win to the Pixel 6, but it's just interesting that the Nothing Phone 1 has the more accurate lock when it does get it. So back inside, we're going to move on to the screen brightness test. So I'll turn off the adaptive brightness and I'm cranking the brightness up as high as it'll go. We've got blank white screens. I've got my light meter. And we'll see the Pixel 6 getting up over 700s, 734 I think was the most we saw there. We come back to the Nothing Phone 1, which I think 591, 595. So it is, the Pixel 6 clearly is the brighter screen. It's actually more apparent in person.
Problem for the counterterrorism agencies.
Yeah, it's a real problem. And then if you build upon that, Mike.
For the counterterrorism agencies.
Yeah, it's a real problem. And then if you build upon that, Mike, I don't know how many weeks ago it was, but on this show we covered the fact that Google and other social network providers.
So we've had samples of music and of spoken voice, and it's interesting. The Nothing Phone 1 has the higher volume, but the Pixel 6 does sound better. Oh, and again, which way do I go with that? I think I'm going to award it to the Pixel 6 just because it does sound better. Meanwhile, in the background, I've cleared cookies and data, etc., and we're going on the old web page loading browser test. See, they're both sort of very similar when it comes to how slick and smooth. And they were both very similar opening that page. What should we go for? Then we're going to go for next on this one. I think the Pixel 6 snuck through, but there really isn't much between them again. This is probably one of the closest head-to-heads I've ever had. This time we're trying YouTube. I mean, that was a dead heat. I don't know that it's fair to award it one way or other on that. And honestly, that has been one of the closest head-to-heads I think I've ever done. I think I'll leave you to do your own scoring, to be honest. So my scoring's there. The Pixel 6 won 3-1 over the Nothing Phone 1, but I mean, they're all very close. Well, I mean, I guess to be fair, the things that the Pixel 6, it clearly had the better screen. The speaker, you could have gone either way. Angry Birds 2, though, the only thing that Nothing Phone actually won was, I mean, that was so close. It was barely makes a difference to you. Yeah, they're just both very, very evenly matched. So I guess the screen being the real difference. But that's perhaps what you pay the £200 more for. I mean, £200 seems a lot to pay for a better screen, but that's where we are. So, I mean, hopefully you found that interesting and informative. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I do read all the comments. But for now, my name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.